Hey there, friends. Dave Paulides, CanAm Missing Project Copyrighted Edition for our video channel. Thanks for being here. And I honestly can't believe how low our world goes sometimes. I mean, as a policeman, I was constantly surprised about how far humanity will stoop. A lot of you have told me about somebody coming onto our site right here on the videos and posting comments trying to impersonate my CanAm Missing logo, trying to impersonate me wanting you to go to a Telegram account. I don't have one. It's an impersonator. He's trying to steal you and your money and your ideas. It's a low-life piece of garbage. Best way he knows to earn money is to steal it from other people or impersonate others. Garbage. And I'm sorry that you even have to read about that. I've reported it to YouTube probably 10 times. Nobody cares. Nobody wants to do anything about it. And then today, like I said, I'm constantly surprised how low humanity can go. So you know, my buddy, one of my best buddies, Scott Carpenter from Tennessee, passed away a couple months ago. Scott had a Facebook group for Bigfooters. And somebody hacked the account. And what did they do with it? They put pornography on it to demean Scott. How low will people go? Really? How low? So some people got a hold of me. I got a hold of Scott's son. And his son said that he didn't know if he could get into the account through his dad's passwords, but he was going to try. And you know, I go back to, is that really what Scott's son needs to mourn about right now? He and his daughter? Or Scott's daughter and son? Who are these people that are doing this? Our world is at a compromise right now, folks. And we really, really need to stick together, support each other, be kind to one another, while on another hand, be very, very, very careful about who's around you. Frustrating as all heck. That's all I could say. A couple of housekeeping stuff. My hat. I think I have a few dozen out in the garage at our warehouse. A few dozen more than what I have here. But if you buy the hat, I'll sign it. We're going to try to blow them out before the end of the year so I can buy some new inventory for you guys. And our website, if you want to buy books, DVDs, etc. It's NA, like North America, NA, BigfootSearch.com. We would greatly appreciate your support. Now, what's going on? Yeah, there's a few hunters that are missing. There's some few strange cases out there. And we'll start with one right now. Somebody reported this case to us a while back. And like everything, I like to sort of wait to see how things flow out. I don't like to make some rapid assumptions. Some cases I'll come out early on when it's pretty obvious. This one was an unusual case. The victim's name was a person named Michael Schmidt. This is Michael. And Michael was 59 years old when he went missing June 10th, 2018. Not too long ago. This happened just southeast of Springfield, Illinois. And he was a resident of Hillsboro, Illinois. And he was married 39 years to his wife, Trina. That's a testament to living. Well, Michael had a longtime friend that he and the buddy decided to go searching for arrowheads out in this area southeast of Springfield. And they drove to the spot, got out, looked around. They decided to search different areas. And interesting thing that you need to know about Michael is he had cancer. He was fighting it, but he had a trachea tube, so he couldn't talk. And he and his friends would communicate with hand gestures and things. And they agreed to come together at the spot at a certain time so they could leave. Well, near the end of that time at that area, his friend saw him and waved to him, "Hey, come on over." He said Michael acknowledged that he was coming over, and then his friend turned, went back to the car. That was the last time he saw Michael. Waited for a while. That happened between 4 and 6 p.m. on June 10th. Well, right after about 6 o'clock, his friend called the Sangamon County Sheriff in Illinois. The sheriff responded right away with canines, which is a good thing. Now, I get asked questions all the time about this. A sheriff's office and a police department, do they all have canine officers? No, they don't. It's an added expense to the department, number one, not because they got to pay for the food, the vet bills, the training. The cost of the dog can be anywhere between $10,000 and $50,000. Yeah, they're expensive. So, and there's more liability when you have a dog. Every time the dog bites somebody, people are suing whether they deserve to get bit or not. So not every sheriff's department and every police department have a dog. But it's been my experience that most medium-sized departments do. They have at least one, maybe two. And then the other question I'm asked all the time, Dave, how often do these dogs train? Well, that's a great question. Because I've been around some dogs on other departments and I can tell they are trained horribly. Or they go through no training at all and call themselves a search and rescue dog. I've seen it. If you are training with your dog every week, multiple times a week, you're not getting the most out of your dog. Now, when I was with the SWAT team and the canine units were with us, they trained every week with us. Sometimes we'd go hide somebody, the dog would try to find us. Sometimes we'd dress up in these big monster suits and we'd come and pretend like we're going to attack the dog and let the dog attack us. You know, it's very scary. You get those big teeth coming at you and you're going, ah, even though you got a big mask on and things, it's scary as heck. And when those dogs come at you, they may weigh only 70, 80 pounds, but when they're flying through the air, they'll easily knock you down. They can hurt you. So training every week is really what it's about. And training with other people who have more advanced training techniques than you have is really the way to go. So in this incident, the sheriff's office had some canines, and so did Springfield, and they all responded. And right away, they said initially they did get a hit on an area where Michael's friend said he was last seen, and then started to dissipate. Here's something really weird on this. Right after Michael disappeared, the skies opened up, and it rained like there was no tomorrow. It rained 6 inches very rapidly. Now, the area that they were in was kind of this triangle area where Horse Creek and Brush Creek surrounded the area that they were in. They were like right in the middle. Let me show you. This is the search zone. Bordered by Horse Creek and Brush Creek, they were right here. Now, they also have a huge body of water here. This is Springfield, Illinois up here. This was a very wide open rural area, right to the east of Holmes Airport. Holmes Airport. Got it? So, Michael's not found, but the skies are opening up, and that is not good because it wipes out tracks, can take out a scent trail. It can at times. And it makes searching just a whole lot tougher. Well, all the water in that area rose anywhere between 4 and 10 feet. And a lot of the area out there got flooded. Well, on June 11th, the following day, the Sheriff's Office already had made a decision to make a call out for SAR workers, search and rescue. So the local rescue squad, Illinois State Police, Illinois Air Operations, They all worked the area from the sky and down below heavily. They were using FLIR, trying to find some heat signature where Michael had just maybe fallen over and was needing some help. They weren't getting anything. Skies started to clear late that day, and it made searching a little easier. June 12th, volunteers started to arrive in the area. Multiple sheriff's office committed resources. State police canines were on the scene. Everyone was working in unison. It was pretty successful in that it was well organized. Sheriff's office, for an unexplained reason, polygraphed Michael's friend. Polygraph meaning gave him a lie detector test. What does that mean? Sometimes people just get real nervous. And if you don't have an interviewer that can put the person at ease to extract the data they need, sometimes it can be perceived as though that person is trying to hide something. If you're not an experienced investigator, if you're not looking for and you understand what deception looks like, you might think they're guilty. Maybe that's what happened here, I don't know. But they put him on a polygraph, and the polygraph examiner later came back and said he didn't play any part in the crime, if there was a crime. He doesn't have any idea where his friend is. Good enough for me. And that kind of put him off on a track to try to figure out more about what happened. So they put more resources into the search. They did everything they could to find him. Water went down. Now, about the time the water is receding, the heat index is going way up. It got super hot in the area. There were comments from search and rescue that it was just a brutal situation of searching amongst this rising water. Humidity was horrendous. Search centered in the area kind of near Pawnee, Illinois. On June 15th, it would be a 4-day search. The weather cleared, extensive heat wave hit the area, and that initial search was called off. But there's missing persons groups that stepped in. They stepped in with more resources, they stepped in with canines, and they searched for another 2 weeks. Extensively. Non-stop. I read about it. It was a great effort. People really put their heart and soul into it. But the total is over 3 weeks. Now I want you to think about something. Since June 2018 when this happened, if you think of that October to November time frame when hunters are in the field and are off trail and are looking around, that's 5 hunting seasons. That's 10 months in this area of extensive people looking and hunting. No remains were ever found. It's hard to believe. No leads were ever picked up. Hard to believe. Now, why do I say that? Usually you'd find something by now. He was in a pretty confined area between 2 bodies of water, these rivers. He's not going to try to cross those. He's going to be in that area south of where he disappeared. It's almost a guarantee. Now, a couple things. He had a disability. Couldn't speak. He had cancer. He was fighting it. A profile point. Weather. Immediately after he disappears, the weather turns to heck and challenges the search in an enormous way. 3. Point of separation. Michael acknowledges that he's going to go meet his friend. His friend turns. It's the last time he's seen. Water. Water's all around him. Water essentially surrounds both of these people. You can't ignore this, folks. I think that it's interesting, as I stated, that it's been 5 years and nothing about Michael's been found. I think at this point, unless there's something miraculous that happens, he's never going to be found. So that's Michael Schmidt, 59 years, from Illinois. Next case, older case. Fred Kilgore, 73, a farmer, went missing May 1st, 1948, just north of Oxford, Maine. If you've never been to Maine, you need to go. It's a beautiful state, lush, thick, green. Fred lived with his wife, Pearl. He and Pearl lived together for 27 years. He was considered by everyone to be a successful farmer. He was healthy. He had no issues in life. Farm was paid for. They were doing well. It was just Pearl and Fred. Well, on Saturday, May 1st, Fred told Pearl that he was going to go into the woods on the back side of the farm and look for a axe that he thought he left there. And the last thing Pearl saw was Fred's dog, family dog, Shep, following Fred into the woods. The implication was Fred would be back for dinner. Fred didn't come back for dinner. But his wife had seen tracks in the snow when he went out that day because the previous day it had snowed 10 inches. But by the end of the day that he was missing, almost all the snow had gone. So at 5 p.m., Fred and his dog hadn't returned. Fred and the dog had not returned. Well, she knew Fred was real self-sufficient, didn't think much about it, called their son in another city and said, "Hey, your dad isn't home." He said, "Don't worry about it." Following day, Fred still hadn't gotten home. Called the son came over. And they decided late that second day to call the sheriff. Well, it was late in the day. On May 3rd, the sheriff arrived, did an initial short search, and then called and said, "Okay, this is going to be a big deal. We need to get more resources in here." Called for search and rescue, called for more assistance. Should say this, that the day after Fred disappeared, guess who shows up? Shep. That's pretty odd. Here's why. I would say in 90% of the cases where somebody disappears, the dog stays with the people, even after death. It's very strange. That's how loyal dogs are. They just love us, and they just want love in return. But Shep came back. Well, on May 4th, deputies are organized. A deputy named Jameson from Keene, Maine, arrived with his bloodhound, and he knew dogs. So he asked Pearl if he could have Shep with him. And he put his dog in his car, and he brought Shep over and talked to him, played with him, and put him on a leash and tried to lead him into the woods. Shep fought back, did not want to go into the woods, didn't want anything to do with the woods, and stayed at home. Not a normal behavior for any dog that I can think of. The only time I've ever heard of this were other canines that were looking for missing people sometimes. These were trained dogs that wouldn't go and track. It's an odd behavior, really odd. Well, Deputy Jameson took his dog back into the woods, and he and his bloodhound searched for that day, didn't come up with a scent, couldn't find any tracks, essentially nothing. But they were able to rally 150 searchers and neighbors and friends. They had 25 students that showed up at the end of the day from the Gould Academy. It was a school nearby. And the sheriff also knew 2 people that owned planes. And they flew over the area, and they were from Bethel. The search and rescue was placed at a 2-mile radius, and so several local rivers were actually searched by people on boat. They were coming up with nothing. At this point, if I'm a search and rescue coordinator, I'm going to keep pushing out those limits. And why am I doing that? If you are convinced that the area that you've searched, you've done it completely, and the victim isn't there, what else are you going to do? You got to keep pushing out. So, second day, May 5th, still 150 searchers They were described in the paper as weary and tired. They'd searched almost 14 hours the previous day. Now they had on 3 state game wardens. They still had 25 Gould students, this time 2 bloodhounds, boats on the water. And they were trying to make a run at the disappearance. Still getting nothing. They knew the exact area that Fred went to. They asked Pearl, hey, how much knowledge did Fred have of that area that he went to? And Pearl said, it's like his backyard. He knows it like his backyard. It is his backyard. And they asked her if they thought he could get lost. She said, there's no way. No, they've been on the property for years and years and years. Fred had been back there 1,000 times. He wouldn't get lost. And then they asked if Shep would come back voluntarily. She said, there's no way. That dog stayed glued to Fred all the time. Now, you start thinking about that. And to me, a normal cop would start thinking foul play. Foul play in the middle of Maine in a super rural area where there was really no crime back then. That's weird to me. So this is an area of South Paris, Maine, where the incident happened. Can't see this right here. This is Lewiston, Maine. This is Lisbon, Maine over here. I want you to notice something. Right in this area, all of the water, tons and tons. This is the disappearance location. Very, very rural. Not a lot of resources. Maine's a strange place. A lot of UFO activity, a lot of crypto activity. Strange place. So May 7th, 50 searchers, 1 aircraft, and 3 game wardens on site. 3 game wardens were supervising about 15, 18 people each. They searched 12 hours, they found nothing. May 8th, the press starts to show up even in more than before. And the search and rescue people said that they thought that Fred was deceased. Common question is, then where is he? Well, they couldn't answer that. But they stated that they had searched everywhere that they thought that he could be, and he was nowhere to be found. And then they asked how long would the search continue, and there was no response. May 9th, search and rescue is terminated. That's why there was no response. They ran out of places to look. They pushed out to a distance that they thought Fred could walk. They weren't finding anything. Now, in those days, people worked hard into older age. We've gotten a little soft here in the last 50 years. Fred was still working a farm at 73 years old. So, and he was the lone one to work the farm. Occasionally his son had come by if they needed real help, but essentially it was just Fred. Pearl kept up the house, fed her worker, Fred, and things survived. When Fred's not there anymore, there's no way Pearl could keep up the property. So September 22nd, 1948, so about a year and 3 or 4 months after Fred disappears, Pearl has an auction of the farm. And here's what she auctions. A 38 Winchester rifle, a 22 rifle, 12-gauge shotgun, a dining room table, chairs, a Colt pistol, a dresser, spare shingles for a roof, a mowing machine, chains, a walking plow, ladders, and a wagon. It was obvious that Pearl was trying to raise money. She was selling the farm, and she was going to move in with her son. So that auction was in September 22nd of 1948. Less than a year after that, March of 1949, there was an obituary in that same local paper. It said, Pearl Kilgore, 73 years old, dies after a 2-day illness. Stated that she moved to Maine in 1890 and she married Fred in 1921. Married to Fred for 27 years. I've always read a lot about relationships because I think they're mysterious. It's hard to understand what makes two people click and two people not click. And then you think about, you spend decades with someone, just like Michael spent decades with Trina. And then Fred spends decades with Pearl. And then you take one of them out of the equation, and you are so dependent on the other for life response, give and take, emotional support, that it, more often than not, it's within a few years and the other spouse